Well, I have a number of videos regarding material information, material non-public information, insider trading, blackout periods, etc. You can check out those videos if you follow these links here. Today, I want to think a little bit more about blackout periods and the fact that there are many, many things that do not require companies to impose blackout periods. So again, blackout period is simply a window of time where certain people inside a company are not able to trade securities because it's deemed that the likelihood of there being material non-public information involved or that they're knowledgeable about is so high that we're just going to say, look, you just can't trade, period, during this time. But again, I want to think about when there aren't mandatory blackout periods. So many companies, almost all companies, in fact, impose some kind of blackout period prior to earnings announcements. So in the weeks leading up to an earnings announcement, they'll say certain people inside the company are not allowed to buy or sell securities of the company. But it turns out there's no actual requirement by the SEC to do this, and that this window is kind of also arbitrary and set by the company. Another time when blackout periods are not mandatory is surrounding board meetings. So certainly during board meetings, you would expect that some of the information discussed would be material and it would also be non-public, but there is no mandatory blackout period imposed for either insiders or independent board members surrounding board meetings. And in fact, it's not very common for companies to voluntarily impose a blackout period surrounding board meetings. Also, you think about investor conferences. This is a way and often a time where companies are able to kind of broadly disseminate material information to the public, making it then now public versus non-public before this dissemination. So clearly insiders are knowledgeable of information that's material and non-public. You would think there would be a blackout period prior to investor conferences, but again, there is no mandatory blackout period imposed prior to the dissemination of material information that was previously non-public. And in fact, most companies do not self-impose a blackout period prior to investor conferences. Now you think about financial statements, you have like 10Qs and 10Ks. Clearly 10Qs happen quarterly. There's less information there. They're not audited, but oftentimes they're going to disseminate some kind of material, non-public information. 10Ks, even more important, is much more detailed, audited statements, lots of information there. But again, even though these reports contain material information that is non-public prior to release, there is no mandatory blackout period leading up to the release of these statements. Now, the crazy one is, of course, if the SEC is investigating your company for some type of fraud or something that would massively affect your stock price, not only are there no blackout periods associated with the investigation period, but you're not even required to disclose the fact that you're being investigated. You're able to freely trade during this investigation, no blackout periods whatsoever. I find this to be absolutely crazy. The simple fact of the matter is there are no real rules. The rule is you can't trade on material non-public information, but there are no mandatory blackout periods for any of it. It's just, you can't do this, but we're not going to kind of put a window there to make things more legitimate, as I would say. So I got to say, wow, I can't believe this is the case. It's a little bit crazy. I wish the SEC would put in some reasonable windows around certain events that clearly have places where there could be some improprieties taking place. Anyway, thanks so much for listening.